So basically you want me to be like Wings of Redemption. No, I'm not going to be like Wings of Redemption. And I'm not going to be like other streamers who don't plan, don't focus, they're not transparent with their audience. I'm not everybody else. Let's go. Okay. Well, the chat is responding pretty appropriately to that comment. Okay. I've been a fan of yours since Heavy Rain. Ugh, I have hair in my mouth.
At first, I thought he was reacting to somebody saying that they've been a fan since Heavy Rain, because that's pretty much my response at this point, too. That's just such a LARPing thing to say at this point. I don't take anybody seriously when they say it. It's such a meme.
Ugh. Okay. I get what you had to change from how you used to be. Nowadays, I do find you kind of boring. I mean, put me to sleep boring. I haven't been able to watch any videos since Hades. I try, but somehow you need to figure out how to become more entertaining.
I've been saying the same thing for quite a while now, but I was not implying that he needs to go back to being openly racist during his videos and streams. I was just saying that he needs a new personality, one that's fun to engage with, one that is actually entertaining for an audience. And despite my suspicion that this is a LARP and as vague as it is, that might be what this person is also implying. But of course, DSP is going to jump directly to why he's not the same guy he was yesterday, and how he's a totally different person and he doesn't make those style of jokes anymore. Not because he doesn't think them, but simply because he doesn't want to say them out loud because he thinks he's going to get in trouble.
Well, here's the thing. There's different kinds of content. There's different kinds of entertainment. All right? Sure, 10, 15 years ago, I was known as the over-the-top, anything goes, equal opportunity offender. Like, that's what I called myself. I'm the equal opportunity offender. I will criticize and make jokes about any race, any creed, any gender. It'll be about sex. It'll be about violence. It'll be about, ethnicity. As long as they're generalized jokes. That's the thing. I never wanted to make it so that a certain group felt like they were being targeted. And I don't think I ever really received a complaint about that. Normally it would be that, yes, by the time that it was your turn for a joke, some people would be like, oh man, it's hard to take. But then again, Phil kind of jokes about everything. So it's kind of fair, right? Back in the day, no one complained.
That's not true at all, DSP. We go over this all of the time. People complained even back then. Your video comment sections were riddled with people calling you racist and saying how you're a disgusting piglet. So you can sit here and pretend that nobody took issue with it, but everybody knows the reality, and it's that people were taking offense to that shit even back in the day and calling you out for it. There's a reason that you turned your comments off so long ago, and it's not only because of this is how you don't play in detractors. It's because people have been calling you out since almost the inception of your channel. I don't know why you insist on pretending that 2010 America is akin to 1940s Germany, but that's definitely not the case, DSP. You weren't allowed to say those things then.
No one had issue with that commentary, all right? Now they do. Now anything like that is considered an absolutely horrible joke. Anytime I even try to make a dark joke these days, people criticize. I mean, take a look at the playthrough that I did. I don't even remember the name of the game anymore, all right? But it was the game about the heist went wrong, right? That there were like 3 brothers who were doing a heist at like a gas station, and there's other survivors in there, and basically there's a girl and there's a corrupt sheriff. So I made a joke in the playthrough, all right, that the corrupt sheriff, who, by the way, there's evidence in the game, he has a black book of horrible things he's done to the town. He's basically blackmailing the town. He's a drug dealer. He's a scumbag. So I make a dark joke that this guy also maybe like taking in kids and having like a whole kind of slave trade deal going on too, because that's the kind of thing a guy like that would do. If this guy really was ruling the town with an iron fist and he's like this underworld kingpin, but he's the sheriff too, don't you think he would be doing more awful things? So I make the comment, all right, boys, prepare the slave trade. We're selling it right off for profits. And people, oh, horrible joke. Awful. Don't you see how that joke's terrible? What an awful thing to say. And I'm like, that's literally the kind of joke I made every 5 seconds back in the day in my old commentary. Like, that's a mild joke compared to the kind of jokes that I used to make back in the day. It really, really is. So the fact that today you can't even make dark jokes because you'll be, you know what I'm saying? People are, oh my God, a dark joke. They can't take it. Right?
It's not that people can't take a dark joke anymore, DSP. It's simply because you're not funny and all of your jokes come off as offensive because of it. There's so many comedians in the world and so many other content creators that can say pretty much whatever they want, whenever they want, and because they are funny, because they have a charm to them, people are okay with it and they find it enjoyable. You, on the other hand, you're insufferable. People genuinely do not like to listen to you. People do not typically think that you are funny. Everything that you say comes off as grating and obnoxious. So when you go out of your way to say something offensive, of course people are going to call you out on it because it's not funny because you said it. And if an offensive joke isn't funny, that just leaves it to be offensive.
So that's why in the modern era, you can't be like that anymore. You just can't. You can be if you constantly want to be the subject of a drama discourse. Like if you're doing it today, you obviously are not a serious creator. All you're trying to do is get people to talk about you in a negative light, so at least your name's out there. And that's not my goal. I literally could today go right back to that style of commentary. And if I did, I would be talked about all over the internet. Oh my God, did you hear Darkside Phil went back to this awful commentary? It's over the top, cancel culture shit, right? But I don't want to do that. My content today has evolved, all right? And here's the thing. It's evolved to the point where I'm no longer in line with what most people on YouTube want, because most people on YouTube want immature drama crap. That's not me.
That's not DSP. That's why every time somebody talks about DSP in any sort of fashion, he feels the need to name drop them and make an entire segment about how they don't know what they're talking about and he's a unique, special style guy. Everybody wants to be immature and DSP doesn't make that style of content. That's why he's constantly making scat jokes and making fart sounds. And you notice that he said that he could go right back to making that style of commentary that he used to do, which just tells me that, like I said earlier, it's not because his mindset has changed, it's simply because he doesn't want to make those jokes and do that style of commentary because he knows that he's going to get something said to him about it. He knows that he's going to face some sort of repercussions online for the things that he used to say, if he said them today.
Right? That's like saying you were going to make a TV show. And so you made a TV show that was professionally made with all kinds of interesting plots and good vibes and things, but it doesn't get a lot of attention. But then someone made Keeping Up with the Kardashians, the dumbest, most vapid, empty-headed piece of dog shit television ever created, and that's the most popular thing on TV, so that's the right way to go, and you should keep making that, right? No. I've made the most vapid, shitty content on YouTube back in the day. I know that now, and I've matured and I've grown up from that kind of content. I don't want to make constant sex jokes. I don't want to make constant racial jokes. I don't want to be making these offensive comments for the sake of getting a rise out of people anymore. I'm past that.
Exactly what I said. He's grown and matured. He doesn't want to make that vapid, stupid style commentary anymore. He just wants to talk about poop jokes and make fart noises into the microphone. And then he'll immediately follow that up with a beg segment, and then he'll tell you what the schedule is. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, categories.
In fact, if you look at my demographics on YouTube, all right, you will see that my demographics over the years have completely changed. My audience in 2010 was a bunch of teenagers. I know because I used to pull the demographics and always used to say, yeah, all of all your viewers are teenagers, right? Now I pull my demographics and it says, whoa, now most of my viewers are in their mid-20s to mid-30s or mid-30s to 40s. That's where all of my viewers are. Older people, adults, around my age range, who are looking for a different kind of content, right?
But you have to know that the demographic statistic on YouTube is completely useless. Just like every demographic statistic on any website is completely useless because everybody is always over the age of 18 all of the time, and if you're not, you're just stupid. When has not being 18 ever stopped anybody from pretending to be 18 online so that they can watch all of the content that they want to watch? I've been 18 since I was like 10 years old on the internet. Sue me. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like these statistics actually mean anything as if DSP's actual audience is 30 to 40 year olds. Yeah, right, dude. What 30 to 40 year old is sitting there every day listening to you talk about shit and play video games poorly? And I don't mean talk about shit like just talking about things. I mean literally talking about feces. And there are people in his chat that are saying that it doesn't have to go from one extreme to the other. This is a guy who's constantly talking about how not everything is black and white and you have to be able to find a middle ground, but he's the king of black and white. OID in his chat saying there is a balance between comedy. It's it's not all either vapid or boring. There is a middle ground. Skylar Dark saying you went from sex jokes to being afraid of any lewd scenes in games. And BITW Awesome is saying the views chart went whoop down. So there were people in DSP's chat telling him to find a happy middle ground and that he doesn't have to be such a prude when it comes to his content, while simultaneously not being openly racist and being offensive to everybody on the planet.
That's what people want. They do not want trash, stupid drama on this channel. Right? Now, there are people who want trash and stupid drama. They're not my viewers. They're my haters. They're scumbags out there. And that's literally, why do you think the top YouTubers right now are people who are doing drama shit constantly? Even the gamers. I mean, the gamers are constantly causing drama, doing drama stunts and things. That's how they are. That's what dumb teenagers like. That's not the content that I make. Okay? I've grown and evolved over the years. I understand what this person is saying. But again, sadly, this is something you'll come to a realization about in life, okay? Things change. They do. People change. Things change for the better, all right?
When are people going to come to this realization, DSP? Maybe when they're, I don't know, older? Is that what you were going to say? Were you about to imply that this person isn't old enough to experience that life is going to change and people are going to change? It's almost like even you're aware that your audience is not the age that you're claiming them to be. And yes, things can absolutely change for the better, but they can also change for the worse. And if you're listening to this guy's feedback, he's saying that you've changed for the worse and that he preferred the commentary that you used to do. Or at least that's the assumption that you've come to. Like I said, he definitely could have been implying that you used to just be more entertaining, not necessarily that the racist and sexist jokes were his favorite thing. And DSP acts as though he's above the drama when he revels in the drama more than anybody else. He loves getting into spats with other content creators. He loves calling people out by name. He loves implying and talking about how much better he is than them and how he's a real guy and they're not, and there's a reason he's still around. He loves flaunting how long he's been on the site and how he's outlasted everybody else, and it's because he's a real dude. That's his favorite thing to do. He loves talking himself up, and causing drama with other content creators is the perfect time for him to boost his own ego. He revels in this shit.
If you're looking for someone who's now been through the YouTube grinder, 16 years of my life I've been doing this. I have all the experience, all the knowledge. I know about how the games industry works. I know about all this shit. If that's the kind of stuff that you want to hear, you want to come here and see honest takes on games. You want to hang out with me for a podcast every day and have some honest discourse about things going on in the world. You want to have some fun laughing at the past on the Throwback channel. You want me to laugh at and react to content from all over the internet on the React show DSP versus the internet. This is the kind of content you could get. It's not going to be mainstream content. That's not what YouTubers are looking for. Excuse me. This is not what YouTube viewers are looking for. They're looking for the same vapid, drama, crap content that I was making 15 years ago. But that's not me anymore. I'm 41, about to be 42. Okay?
If they wanted a YouTuber's honest thoughts about a video game, DSP, they'd probably go to a YouTuber that actually has some sort of common sense when it comes to video games. If they wanted to hang out with somebody and watch some React-style content, they would probably go to a different YouTuber that actually has something interesting to say and some sort of personality. I don't know what product you think you're advertising, but you're definitely not advertising it accurately. You fundamentally misunderstand the type of content that you make.
So, that's why it's different. And again, when people say to me, oh, you changed for the worse, you're boring now, then it's time to move on, right?
Given the current trajectory of your channel, DSP, I don't think that it's exactly the wisest idea for you to be telling other people that they need to leave your channel, that they need to quit watching you. Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize at this point that your viewership numbers are dying. Your tips are less and less month after month, and the amount of people who are supporting you are fewer and fewer. Your entire business is pretty much propped up by the same 5 people day in and day out. Whether you want to address that or not is entirely up to you. But like I said, I just don't think it's a wise idea to be telling people to go elsewhere, to quit watching your channel. Because eventually the only people that are going to be watching your channel are those 5 people that prop your channel up. And if that's what you want, hey, I guess go for it, but I don't see that as a wise business decision.
If you don't like who I become as a person, despite the fact that I feel my content is more meaningful today than it ever was before, it's not harmful to anyone. That's a key factor. When you're watching my gameplay, when you're watching my podcast or my React stuff, there's no one getting hurt, right? I'm not causing drama. I'm not trying to cause fights and stuff, right? That's just the truth. And I like that a lot. The fact that every day I can go to sleep and say, hey, I didn't actually have to hurt anyone to make $1 today, right? Didn't have to insult anyone, didn't have to cause any problems for anyone. I was just able to entertain an audience and make a living doing it. That's an honest paycheck. That's an honest day's work right there.
An honest day's work, that's ackable, DSP, absolutely ackable. And if you're sitting here saying that you don't have to insult anybody and you don't have to deride anybody in order to make the living that you currently make doing the content that you make, is that you then insinuating that you're insulting and deriding people because you want to, not because you have to? Because I think you'd have to be insane in order to not acknowledge that you do insult people and do deride people in your chat. And this suggestion box is a prime example of that, whether it be this part or the last one. And it's no surprise to me that DSP is completely okay with being a beggar at this point as long as he doesn't have to quote unquote herd people, because he takes no issue with getting free handouts. He has no issue taking money from other people for doing actually nothing. At least if he was starting drama or talking bad about other people, he would be doing something. He would be entertaining. He would be providing some sort of service in the form of entertainment. Right now, the way that he makes his living is simply via handouts, and I think that that's so much more despicable in all honesty.
Right? Unlike the shit that they're doing on these popular YouTube channels, I'm being honest about it, right? I said, I'm basically the blue-collar content creator, busting my ass, working hard every day, not hurting anyone, just making a living, getting by, and hanging out with you guys, and that's what it's all about, all right? Versus what they do out there, pulling their stunts, being fake, doing all this fucking bullshit, scamming and all this shit. I'm not involved with any of that.
Blue-collar content creator, do those exist? And busting your ass, you're completely delusional. DSP wants so desperately to be like a normal person, to relate to a normal person while living the way that he does. Newsflash, DSP, that'll never happen. Normal people exist the way that they exist because they don't live like you. You're not relatable to anybody. You're not blue-collar. You're not hardworking. You sit in your gated community and beg for tips online. You only leave your house once a week. How are you blue-collar? How are you gonna relate to any normal style person? People who have bills to pay, and I'm not talking about their Scopely bill, I'm talking about legitimate, real utility style bills. How dare you compare yourself to these people while you sit in your gated community and drink your seltzer water while burping and snorting into the microphone? It's just insulting and disrespectful to the common person, the people who actually work jobs to produce things that make the world go round. And I know DSP isn't very familiar with a lot of the words that he uses, but blue collar very specifically relates to manual labor. When is the last time DSP has done manual labor? I don't honestly think he's ever done manual labor. He's been in retail and he's been in office jobs. The dude has actually never been blue collar in his life.
I hope that you understand and appreciate that I'm different. All right? So yeah, if that's the case and you don't get it and you don't like the modern me, then it's time to move on. People change it in time, man. It's, you know, it's like they say, a lot of people who I used to watch back in the day have changed. The Angry Video Game Nerd absolutely changed. The Nostalgia Critic changed. Fuck, Howard Stern apparently is completely different today than what he used to be. If you don't like what people become as they evolve, that's fine. That's just the human condition, is that things change over time. You have to accept it. Just don't sit there denying it or demanding that the past comes back. That's never going to happen. I'm never going to be Phil from 2010 again. It just won't happen. It's not going to happen. It can't happen. You understand? I'm a different person. Okay.
That's great and fine and all, DSP, but this is the suggestion box. This is a former fan of yours that is telling you why they no longer want to watch your content, why they can't be bothered to sit through the slog that you put out. And I think that it's important for content creators that have been around as long as DSP has to hear these things every once in a while. There's so many YouTubers on this site that have completely lost touch with reality because of how long they've been around and how famous they've become. And I'm sure as soon as I said that a handful of content creators popped into your mind, because it's all too common, and it sucks to have a content creator that you used to like not make content that you like anymore. In the same way that it sucks when a musician that you used to really like starts making music that you don't enjoy, because you wish that they would just go back to the old thing so you could continue to enjoy it, because even though time has moved on and progressed and you've all grown, you would still like to hear that sound. But I guess that's why we have DSP Throwback now, isn't it? He should have just told the guy to go over there and tune in for those streams, but instead he told him to piss off and quit watching his content, so that was a big brain move.
Edit your throwback videos into longer format playthroughs. Have them only in 3 long parts. That way you can get through older playthroughs faster. Add chapters. People can always go back and finish the video. For perspective here, the content on the DSP Throwback channel, alright? Right now we're making 30-minute parts. Okay? To make those 30-minute parts takes 4 to 5 hours of video. Of editing. Just running it through the editor, encoding it. Okay? Can you imagine if right now, for the Final Fantasy 13 playthrough, which is around 35 hours long, that we tried to make a 12-hour video, the PC would be running for 2 weeks just to encode one video. It wouldn't work. What you're saying is preposterous. Maybe if I had a giant network of supercomputers, right? A server farm trying to fucking encode the video, maybe. That it's never going to happen. Okay?
I said this previously in one of my videos. I said that he should increase the length of the videos that he puts on DSP throwbacks. I don't know about just 3 parts per playthrough, but at least an hour, maybe even 2-hour long parts. Because OP Boon is going to put the timestamps in the description anyway using AI. So people could just do that instead of having all of these parts come out. It would be a much better way for him to get out the content without spamming people's inboxes every day. And as of late, YouTube has been rewarding people for putting out long form content and retaining a viewer base during it. So that really could work in DSP's favor. And as far as the videos having to render for 2 weeks, why don't they just render them in smaller chunks similar to how they do now and then just combine them all in the end so that it is one larger part? So it would do all of the actual rendering of the AI upscaling and the noise cancellation effects in the first go around, the first render, and then they could just put all of those parts together and it would be a much faster render. And doing it this way would mean that less parts are coming out per week, and DSP could even use that to his advantage, because if he was only doing 1 or 2 a week, he could premiere them and type in his chat and have an interactive, fun experience with them. But of course, all of that is too much work for DSP. He can't be bothered. It's working right now exactly how it is, and he doesn't want to make any changes because he's doing nothing in order to get this out. It's hard to make suggestions and critiques to the dents when you're not the one that's actually doing any of the work. You're going to ask them to change their process that they're doing for free.
So I don't know what to tell you, but yeah. Basically, the thing is, people just have these crazy misconceptions about things. Oh, it should be so easy to do that content. Really? You think that taking those videos that look and sound atrociously bad, like some of them you can't even make out what I'm saying in the video at this point, because now, you know, years later, you're so used to the modern technology, it looks like shit, it sounds like shit. You think that running those videos through upscaling AI, through noise correcting AI, right? Then combining them together, that this should take like 20 minutes. Well, let me know what alternative universe you live in. I'd like to visit this multiverse where everything is like this. Really, I'd love to see it. It doesn't exist, but I'd love to know, because again, these people are living in an alternate reality when they think about this shit. They just want what it's called instant gratification. I want it my way, immediately, for free, and if you don't give it to me my way immediately for free, you're doing it all wrong and it's your fault, right?
But that person didn't even say all of that. They didn't bring up the render times at all. They simply said that these videos should be a bit longer in length, which, like I said, you could do the render how you do it now and then just cut them together. It's not that complicated. You're the one that's always claiming people are building strawmen so that they could attack them and be right, but that's exactly what you're doing here, DSP. Nobody said any of those things but you. You're the person who's getting instantly defensive because someone gave you a legitimate piece of feedback. And this is the exact kind of reaction that makes me wonder why we still do the suggestion box to begin with, because he does this shit all of the time. He's instantly defensive about things that he doesn't have to be defensive about. It just shows you how fragile his ego is, but that makes me question why he would want to do a segment where that's on display as prominently as it is right now.
Listen, basically the way I see it is, the way that those videos are releasing is good. It gives you a little bit of content every day, half an hour, right? It doesn't overwork the editors, so they're not having to pump 20, 30, 40 hours into each video, which would be ludicrous. Do you know how many views those videos are getting? On average, 100 to 200. Do you really think that we should run it through an editor for that long to get 100 views on a video? What are you talking about, right? Like, you're out of your mind. This way, we can guarantee new content every day, right? Because they're half an hour parts. And there's no lull. If you're interested in the playthrough, you can keep following it and watching it. Why on earth would we try to pump that much effort into those videos, edit it for 2-3 days straight to pump out a 5-6 hour video that's going to get 100 views, right? Like, what are you talking about?
It shouldn't matter how many views you get on the video, DSP. You should take pride in the work that you put into your channel. You should take pride in the content that you are releasing. I thought you didn't want to be Mr. Views, but now you're sitting here justifying how much work you put into content depending on how many views you get. It kind of sounds like you want to be Mr. Views then. And look, I understand that you don't want to put a bunch of time and effort into making a piece of content that people aren't going to watch. But the reality is, if that's a piece of content that you want to do, you should put your everything into it. You should put as much time and effort as you need to in order to make sure that it comes out in the best way possible. And I have to bring this up once again, it's not DSP that's doing any of this work at all. So I don't know why he's so upset about it. I don't know why he cares whether this feedback is coming in or not, because this isn't more work on his plate. This is gonna go to his team of editors that all of a sudden he has. Even though he loves to flaunt around in everybody's face that he's a one-man team and that he's so in demand and he's got all of these things to do all by himself.
Again, please give me instant gratification of every single thing that I want with absolutely no rationale of why that would make sense or even any kind of understanding of what you're doing on the channel. Just give it to me now. No. We will not do that. Okay?
Yeah, you know how you have preferences about the content that you watch and what you would like to see on YouTube? Yeah, I don't give a shit. Just watch my slop, okay? Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, categories.
Shorten the podcast and dive into gameplay sooner. That one I've heard 4,000 times. We've already explained that in reality, a lot of the support and engagement that I'm getting these days on certain streams actually is from the podcast. There's been certain days when I talk and we have a good conversation and good fun and I get support and then I start the game and it's dead.
And we've addressed this 4,000 times as well, DSP. The likelihood is that people are coming in and just tipping you as soon as they get there. That way you're in a good mood and it has nothing to do with what's actually going on screen. And you're choosing to completely ignore the games that are doing well for you because you want to act as though your podcast is something that it's not. I feel like if you get the same suggestion every single suggestion box, maybe you should do something about it, but I feel like I'm repeating myself for the 100,000th time. So we're just gonna move on.
Right now, we are leaning more towards content outside of the raw gameplay. This is going to continue to happen in the future. So, just get rid of the podcast, shorten the podcast. It's the opposite is what's going to happen because that's what actually what's going on is there's more support. Last week, you guys literally voted to have a chill night with me where all we did was talk, and it went well. That stream went well. So why are you getting at me a comment here? Drop the podcast, make a shorter podcast. No, people want more. That's what I'm seeing. The actual evidence versus this kind of one-off suggestion, the evidence is people are liking it more. So do more of it.
The only people that I know that are looking forward to longer pre-streams are detractors, because detractors are the only people that benefit from them. I've said numerous times that if he didn't do the pre-stream like this, then I wouldn't be making content on him because I'm not going to sit through all of the gameplay. But the pre-stream, on the other hand, oh my god, it's full of gold dust. It's just him talking out of his ass the entire time. It's pretty much infinite things to talk about. It's infinite nitpicks. It's him being wrong non-stop. So DSP, I guess do more pre-stream if that's really what you want to do, if you think that that's the way you need to take your channel. I just don't know how I'm gonna keep up.
Let's see here. Let's see here. So this one actually is a good one. It says, you should try diving into YouTube By the way, this will probably be the last suggestion we take for today because I got to get the shout outs and stuff. You should dive into your YouTube analytics for podcasts. See what segments of the show have spikes or dips in viewer retention. Does the retention start to go down when you bring up a schedule? Consider shortening that segment. Does the retention spike when you discuss gaming news? Consider covering more gaming news or even expand into entertainment news. My robo-generated timestamps likely help with these stats, encouraging people to click through to parts of the podcast that interest them, lowering retention for parts they want to skip past, and raising retention for parts they want to watch. On a video's analytics page, there's a retention graph under engagement tab. The graph can provide valuable information as to who actually tunes into the podcast and why they're successful. Consider sifting through the retention graphs for multiple podcast episodes to recognize patterns in audience interest. This is all really good constructive criticism. I want to do that.
DSP, that's hardly constructive criticism. That's more feedback. That's just a suggestion. There's no criticism there. They're just telling you that you should actually look into your analytics. You should actually look at the graphs that YouTube provides to you. And in all honesty, that should have been something that you were doing to begin with. You should have been taking a closer look at your content and the stats that are provided to you via YouTube so that you could be more successful, so you could try and replicate the things that are doing well on your channel. The fact that you weren't doing that, or I guess still aren't doing that, is actually quite telling about how much you care about the content, how much you care about putting out content that people actually want to watch. But you might have noticed that he ended that with "I want to do that," which means that he's going to have some sort of regarded as excuse as to why he can't or why he hasn't yet. And I'm just so excited to hear what he comes up with.
My challenge is twofold. The first challenge of this is finding time to do it. When I'm already sitting here in this office 8 to 10 hours a day streaming, uploading, schedule, all this stuff, right? And it's taking up the vast majority of my time already with what I'm doing. I don't know when I'm going to find time to sit and sift through analytics. Now, I'd love to do this. Maybe what I could do, I'm curious if you could do it on the phone, like in the app, because I don't think you can. I think you have to do it actually in the real YouTube dashboard. Like, I have analytics in the YouTube apps and stuff that I have, but it's not the full-fledged stuff. It's like a mobile downgraded version. But I'd have to look into this. Okay, I would.
You need to find time. DSP, you take a 20-minute bathroom break. You're meaning to tell me that in the 20 minutes that you're in the bathroom, you can't pull up your phone and look at your analytics? And I say that because as far as I know, YouTube Studio has pretty much all of the analytics in it that you might need to look at. And I just personally looked at the desktop version because typically I do use the mobile version and it looks all the same to me. But of course, before even looking into it, DSP has already decided that they are completely different and that he couldn't do that before right now. It really is amazing how this guy has an excuse for everything, even things that he hasn't looked into and doesn't know anything about. He has an excuse for it, trust me.
I'd have to dive in. So, for example, what I could do, this very podcast, let it sit for a day or two, right? Go and look at the analytics, and there's engagement analytics, and see when did people come in and watch? When was their spikes? When were their dips? You know, what happened? That's what I got to figure out. The other challenge, and this sadly is a big challenge, okay, is knowing the fact that sadly, I'm not just making content for me, I'm making content that goes into other circles. And here's what I mean by that. Detractors.
Yo, that's us. We're the detractors. Big ups all of you guys for being here. DSP's talking about you right now. Yes, you.
Every single day when I'm streaming, there's thousands of people rewatching this stream on someone else's stream. And when something gets said that's inflammatory, like for example, let's say, I don't know, Tevin is restreaming me today. And there's some particular meme he brings up, or there's something that I'm saying, a topic that he finds interesting, right? So then he'll bring it up on his stream. All of a sudden, some of his viewers will jump onto my stream, right? And what happens is that skews the audience, all right? And by the way, I just said Tevin because he's a common restreamer. Everyone says that he's someone who restreams me all the time for stuff, right?
So not only did detractors get a shout out in general, but Tevin got a specific shout out. Big ups Tevin and big ups the Almighty Egg Gang. Very cool.
So basically what'll happen is there'll be spikes. Like I'll even see, oh my God, I would look, why on earth do I have like 600-700 viewers right now? I don't even understand it. Like, where did that come from? Right? And you'd be like, well, that's because someone was restreaming you. They said a comment about what you were saying. And so their viewers came over to see your stuff. Right? To comment in the chat themselves or whatever. You'll notice all of a sudden there'll be a ton of accounts that will come into the chat and all start saying the same thing. And that's because you know where they came from. They came from a restreamer stream. And that skews the data. So it sucks because, for example, if you're trying to use analytics to figure out, oh, I wonder, you know, what really was the most engaging part of the podcast, right? And it'll be, oh, it's when someone tipped $1 and started talking about Review Tech USA in a negative way, and you commented on it, but in reality, your viewers don't care about that. That's the detractors. They care about that content. So they came to the stream to see it, but your viewers didn't give two shits. Your real supportive viewers. That's a problem.
It's only a problem because of the way that you decided to set up your business, DSP. You're the one who wanted to rely on crowdfunding. You're the one who wanted to receive PayPal tips directly into your PayPal instead of, I don't know, getting a sponsor or getting some sort of advertisement on your streams. Because whether you like it or not, the majority of your viewers are detractors. And the fact that you're not willing to capitalize on that, the fact that you're not willing to make money off of that is just stupid. Because he's sitting here saying, oh, you can't tell what people actually find interesting because detractors come in here and they skew the statistics. It's almost like that's what the majority of people who watch you find interesting, DSP. It's not that complicated.
There's no way to tell in analytics where your real engagement is coming from. Like, what did my actual viewers and fans who are here every day, what did they like about my show today? That you can't tell really, you know, because you're going to get those spikes and those interferences from outsiders. How many people can say every time that they put out content on YouTube, there's 1,000 people watching them on other streams that could skew their analytics at any moment?
Quite a few, actually. More than you'd think, but less than you'd hope.
Right? Probably not many. Maybe me and a few other people who get restreamed all the time, like Wings and stuff like that. Probably a few of us, but not that many, right? We're in a unique situation where these tools sadly don't get used as much because we can't really use them because they get thrown for a loop whenever that kind of stuff happens, right? But I like the suggestion, I guess, because it would be a lot easier for me to do this stuff, for example, on my phone. Like, let's say, for example, you know, I'm on my day off and Kat and I are relaxing in the living room. We're watching something together. Maybe Kat's playing a game and I'm watching her play. But maybe then I could pop open my phone and get the app open and say, let's take a look at the podcast from 2 days ago. Let's see the spikes and things and try to coincide those with the timestamps and see what people liked about the show or not, right?
And he absolutely could do that on the YouTube Studio app that he could get on his phone right now. I have the app. It provides all of that information for you just like on the desktop. All he'd have to do is download it, but he's just too lazy and too stupid. And apologies if it sounds like I'm trying to flex that I have to check my analytics or whatever. That's definitely not what this is. I mostly just use it to read your guys' comments. But when there is knowledge to be gained from the numbers, I do look at the numbers.
But if I got to come into this office and sit here dedicated, sitting in front of the freaking YouTube dashboard to do it, and I'm away from my family to do it, I don't see how I'm going to have time to do it. That's the problem. I'm already to the point where I've worked myself as much and stretched myself as thin as I can get. People are saying, we're not getting enough of the games we want. We're not getting enough of the React content we want. Then saying, oh, by the way, on top of that, spend more time analyzing your data and stuff. It's like, I cannot do any more time. I can't. That's the limits of my time. You know what I mean? Like, I have to draw a line in the work-life balance at some point, and I'm already working too much. So there's got to be a split at some point. You know what I'm saying?
It irritates me to no end when he sits there and acts as though his audience is ungrateful for the content because he spread himself so thin and he spends so much time in his office working. When the reality of the situation is the reason that they say that he's not putting out enough content is because he wastes so much time doing shit that they don't care about. Shit like the podcast, shit like the schedule segment, shit like updating the leaderboard for 45 seconds at a time every 15 minutes. Seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours, turn to days, DSP, and you are actively wasting time every single day. I mean, people told him that he needs to get rid of the daily wrap or cut out the recap during the stream, and that's 20 minutes at night alone if he just got rid of the daily wrap. But of course he can't do that. He has to recap at night so he can recap the recap while he recaps on the pre-stream. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, DSP agrees.
But we'll see, because I think it's a great suggestion. I actually do. I don't want to say, oh, I'm just going to discredit this entire suggestion. I think the suggestion is very valid and useful. I just don't know how I can implement it right now. Okay. Well, that's enough of a suggestion box for today. We got to get to shout outs now.
That's exactly what I was thinking, DSP. We got to get to shout outs now because I've got comments to read. BPK Don says, theory, suggestion box is an excuse for DSP to practice dodging valid criticisms for his eventual politics debut. And I actually replied to this comment saying that I didn't think it was intentional, but instead a side effect, because that would then be implying that DSP went out of his way to actually practice something before doing it, and we all know he's too lazy for that. Wizard 100, the schedule segment is 100% about milking the clock. Imagine milking a clock. Gross. I agree, dude. It's disgusting. It's revolting. It's insulting. It's sick. It's piss. Drew6145 said, dice rolls are so foreign. You don't get it. What is this, 20-sided die? It's supposed to be 6. No mortal man could count that high. And that might be DSP's problem when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3, because we all saw in the last part that he couldn't even count to 10. So 20 is definitely out of the realm of possibility for DSP. But I want to give a shout out to everybody who watched the video, especially if you made it this far. And a special shout out to all of my members. I appreciate all of you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other detractor channels and dive deeper into that. Snortax.